What's a meaty? It sounds delicious.
Frame data? That sounds really nerdy.
Dude, a hitbox sounds tight. If you sound like any of these, well, maybe not the last one, but if you sound like any of these in the video, it's probably for you. Hello and welcome to Guilty Gear. Today we're going to talk about some of the more technical aspects of fighting games, but it should be useful in getting you started playing some fighting games, and a little bit about the theory about why perhaps some things might not be working or not feeling right all the same. And we're going to pick Kai and Ram for some of these lovely demonstrations. And we're going to talk about three things in particular. The first being frame data, the second being hitboxes and hurtboxes, and the third being meaties. The nice part about these three separate things is that they are all very, very, very related. And so, let's get started. First thing you need to know about frames is that every fighting game that matters on the planet runs at 60 frames a second. What this means is that when you see it, that a move has 5 frames of startup, that's what it's referring to, 5 frames out of 60, or 1/20th of a second. Fighting games also tend to rely on moves having 3 separate sections for their moves. That is the startup, the active frames, and the recovery of the move. So let's start with startup. Startup is just the period of time it takes you to start a move up. It's effectively the amount of time it takes you before the move can actually deal some kind of damage or force your opponent to block. Good example of this is Kai's super fireball thing. Basically takes a long time to charge up, and then it comes out and then hits for a long period of time. This move has huge amounts of startup compared to a move like this or like this, which has very little, or like this, which has virtually 0. The important thing to keep in mind with startup is just the amount of startup a move takes. If a move has long startup and you're right in front of them, you probably don't want to use them. Conversely, the same with this. You want to find moves that have low startup to be able to sort of wriggle your way out of their pressure. Moves like punch generally have very fast startup, kick generally a little bit slower but also has quite fast startup. Crouching is exactly the same, and sometimes you might have a reversal that is incredibly fast. Next we'll talk about active frames. Active frames are the portion of the move that can actually do damage and are generally the shortest actual period in the move. Most moves only have active frames within like 3 to 5 frames at most. Sometimes it's even just 1. And this is where we're going to slightly tangent into talking about hitboxes and hurtboxes, because, well, an active frame is just a move where you have a hitbox. A hitbox is just how your character does damage. You might have seen diagrams like this, and hopefully I've put some on the screen so I don't just look like a crazy person, but hopefully you've seen things like this before, where you'll see red boxes and then maybe green or blue boxes depending on how the game is structured, to show hitboxes and hurtboxes. Hitboxes are simply where the move can actually deal damage. So for example, if I jump at Ram and do this, even though my foot is very much going over her, it's not actually hitting her because, well, that isn't an active hitbox. However, if she were to hit my foot, I would probably take damage and be hit. That's because the hitbox and the hurtbox are two different things and behave differently. This is part of why I also have Ram here. So now that we know this, we can sort of take it back. During the startup of our moves, we don't actually have a hitbox, and during the recovery, the last part of our move, we also don't have a hitbox. We might just have hurtboxes. This is part of why I've grabbed Ram. I'm going to get Ram to go and do this because this is a big old move with a big wodge of recovery on it. Something important to note and demonstrate at the moment though is that hitboxes and hurtboxes don't necessarily overlap. They can be what's called disjointed. This is more of a Smash Brothers term, but it has kind of migrated its way into general fighting game terminology. And you'll notice that even though I'm hitting Ram's sword, I'm not actually dealing damage to her. Ram is a good example of disjointed hitboxes. She has a lot of these where she can swing and hit you, but you might not necessarily be able to hit her, because if I do this and she hits it, she can hit my sword, but I can't hit hers, because Kai has a hurtbox on his sword. This is something you're going to have to find character specific, but in most cases, Ram is the one with by far probably the most disjointed hitboxes in the game. Other characters, you can usually do what's called a whiff punish. When they miss, you might just be able to hit their sword and deal damage to them. Recovery frames are pretty important. Sometimes you can simply cancel out of them. For example, if I do this into this, I can cancel out of those frames, or if I do this into this, I will always be safe no matter what. As long as I make contact with the Dia Eclat, I will always be safe after doing this move, and I can cancel out of this long recovery period. If you want a good way of testing recovery of your moves in neutral, by the way, you can just use jump. This doesn't always work, as some moves are what's called jump cancelable, like Soul's 5k for example. You can just jump out of it at any time. If you want to test for moves like that, you can also try crouching. The reason why the jumping is so useful is because if the move can't be jump cancelled, what you can do is go into training settings, counter attack settings, and then after block and after hit, you can set your opponent to jump. Unfortunately, for some reason, you can't set them to crouch, and even with the custom settings, I've had trouble trying to set them to crouch. So this is a good way of testing. If I do this and then jump, so for example, I think this close slash can be cancelled, right? So this is a good example of a move that can be cancelled, where I'm just cancelling out of it and jumping way before she can. If I try crouching, you'll notice it takes me a lot longer to crouch. This is usually the period of time it would take. If I just do... Unfortunately, I can't do close slash in neutral. But if I do fast slash, and we both jump, you'll notice that she jumps way before I do. And I'm just holding up, that's all I'm doing. And this basically tells me that this move is hella negative. So I probably want to cancel this into something else. Let's try with 5k. Yeah, that's cancelable, unfortunately. Heavy slash. Yeah, there we go. Very negative, as you can see. If you jump at about the same time, you can probably figure that moves are close to neutral. And if you jump before they do, well, hey, guess what? You're plus. Or you might just be jump cancelling. Try and watch the animation, see if the animation plays fully, see if it's any different to you doing this, and you can figure out if you're jump cancelling or if you're just plus. And what do we mean when we say plus and minus? Well, this is because Hitstun and Blockstun are two different things. And we talked about our frames, we need to talk about the frames of our opponent. Because when you hit your opponent, you're basically locking them out of the ability to act. Either they are hit or they are blocked. They cannot move and they cannot do anything. They just have to take the damage. This is how combos work, for example. The only thing they could effectively do is burst in Guilty Gear. When we say a move is plus, it simply means that the recovery of the move is such that we can hit them before they can hit us. The recovery of our move is faster than the recovery of their block stun or hit stun. A good rule of thumb is that if you land a hit, you will usually be plus afterwards if they are still in front of you, although in games like Guilty Gear, it's going to be a little bit situational because you're generally expected to cancel a lot of your moves. And as an end result, if you're not cancelling, then you might not actually be plus. Be a little bit careful just hitting stuff like this and then expecting you to be plus afterwards just for free, because that's not necessarily how it works. You can also apply the same jump logic to landing hits, so if we stop her from blocking and we hit her with... if we hit her with fast slash, for example, you'll notice that I'm still actually negative on this move. If I hit her with this, I'm very positive because, hey, she's been knocked down. Where it becomes more important if you are plus or minus on block is if your opponent wants to press buttons afterwards. If you have a move that is plus, then it is still your turn effectively. If you both try to press a button as quickly as possible, then you will win every single time and maybe even score a counter hit. Knowing when you are plus and minus is a big part of fighting games, and there is no situation more plus in a fighting game than, well, knocking down your opponent. What this sets up is a situation for a meaty hit. This is a hit where you are basically trying to put a hitbox over their hurtbox as they stand up. When you knock someone down, they kind of lose their hurtbox in this game. Sometimes they will keep it. For example, if you sweep them, you could hit them OTG or on the ground, and they will just pop right back up immediately. The rewards for hitting people on the ground isn't huge, however, so generally not recommended unless you're trying to finish them off, for example. Be careful about hitting people OTG. Getting a good meaty is usually worth a lot more. So we're just trying to put a hitbox over her hurtbox as she stands up. Good meaties generally have a lot of active frames and generally link into a lot of different moves. A good way of practicing your meaties is by going into the training settings and then going into counterattack settings after recovery and then pressing a fast button for your opponent to try and do. So we're going to throw her. Then we're going to try and hit a meaty, and if you do it right, you should get a counter hit. I'm doing it a little bit too fast because I think my timing is still on for Street Fighter, but there we go, we're getting a counter hit, and that is our meaty landing. And from that meaty, we want to be looking for some kind of combo that we can go into and get a bit more damage. This also leads us to invulnerable reversals. If I throw Leo Whitefang here and then try and meaty him, he is going to hit me with his reversal. The reason why it's called an invulnerable reversal is doing a reversal is just simply doing a move frame 1 on when you stand up. An invulnerable reversal is a move you can do frame 1 when you stand up, but it has no hurt boxes, so no matter how good my meaty is, I will be hit by this. The only time you will beat this out is if the opponent's wake up Dragon Punch or wake up reversal is mistimed and you'll be able to hit them with it. The window for doing invulnerable reversals in this game is incredibly tight, so if you have a solid meaty, you'll actually stuff a lot of invulnerable reversals. The more space your meaty is, the more likely they are to get it out. Naturally, this is a computer, so it's doing it perfectly every single time. And effectively during these, he is invulnerable because he does not have a Hurtbox. He does, however, have a Throwbox. If I try and throw him on Wake Up, I might be able to get it if I get the timing right. Unfortunately, that is a 2-frame window, so it is quite difficult to do as well. You can generally find frame data on websites like Dustloop. I'll link it in the comments below because it should be easier to find. Dustloop has a lot of resources for you to help figure out why moves are behaving in the way that they are. In general, you don't actually have to know the frame data by heart, and knowing the frame data for every single character is something that even pros might not know. In general, you can assume a lot of moves are going, a lot of block strings or a lot of things are going to end negative, and then it's just worth picking out the ones that will end when the opponent is plus. A good example is Giovanna, who has a lot of stuff that ends with plus frames, and therefore it is still her turn. What that means is if you press your fastest button and she presses her fastest button, she will hit you. Breaking the game down in this turn-based manner is extremely effective for new players because you're basically looking for openings where you can either steal your turn back or make it your turn, and then finding ways to safely end your quote-unquote turn, where even if your opponent blocks something, you can safely get out of it and not be punished for it because your recovery is so long and you recover later than their hitstun ends and they get to hit you with a move. Well, there's more advanced concepts to talk about regarding all three of these topics. This should be a good enough primer to kind of get you started thinking about these, breaking moves down into their component frames, and then thinking about the hitboxes and hurtboxes involved, how to make a move safe. A move might not necessarily be unsafe just because it is heavily negative on block if it pushes you out so far that no one can realistically reach your hurtbox. Ram is a great example of a character that does this. I largely just wanted to get this video out of the way relatively early because we're going to be talking about moves being plus or minus quite a lot. I say the word meaty quite often already, and well, you're going to need to know a little bit about hitboxes and hurtboxes just to understand how a fighting game works. While this is a bit complex and nerdy, I suppose, it's important to kind of get how it works. It's like learning how a hit scan weapon works in a shooter versus a projectile weapon. You just got to kind of know this stuff and intuit how it goes from there. As always, if you have questions, I will be trying to answer what I can in the comments below. I've been trying to watch my notification symbol in the top right corner of YouTube. It pops up whenever I get a comment, so I'll try and answer what I can. When I can, I'm sure the community can help out as well. If you feel like I missed something as well, please address it and please provide what advice you can. It will help people out, I am sure. Otherwise, if you've learned anything from this video, or if you've just enjoyed the brief refresher, I suppose, feel free to drop a like and a sub arena if you want more content delivered to you from the channel. Otherwise, I've been Josh, one voice amongst many, and I'll see you next time. Toodaloo.